There's a lot of stuff to talk about, including did the Lakers get better at all, or did they just trade Russes? We'll do all of that with Brenden Whitted, our NBA analyst, who joins us. I appreciate your time, my friend. All right, let's start with the real big one. Let's start with the Kevin Durant one from last night. We wondered what was going to happen after the Kyrie Irving trade. Is Durant going to sit there in Brooklyn with Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie, two good pieces that they got back, and maybe see if they can make a run of it in the East? But ultimately, Durant wants to win a title, and that team wasn't winning a title in the Eastern Conference, so let's just bust the whole thing open. Your thoughts on what the Nets got really total in the Kyrie deal and then the Durant deal, and what they should do next?
I think given where they were, they didn't do really badly. I know some people have lamented that they didn't get like a superstar, top tier sort of a player back. You mentioned Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith. But, I mean, it was just this all happened and unraveled pretty quickly and on top of one another. Like, all of this was taking place kind of within a week of the trade deadline.
Right.
And when everybody else can see your house on fire, they're going to start charging more for water. And so it's a lot more difficult to get maybe equal value back. I don't know if you even can get equal value back for a guy like Kevin Durant.
Or Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie, right? Like everyone knew that he wanted the extension. There are only a couple teams that would be willing to and able to in terms of their finances and what they had. And so all of those things, and to say nothing of the other stuff that goes on with Kyrie. So all that really made it more difficult to make that trade. And then once you make the Kyrie trade, that's pretty much it for KD. Like the KD trade clock started then because he was there to play alongside Kyrie. And once he left, the writing was pretty much on the wall. Now, I think Kyrie's package that they got back for him, Brooklyn, I think part of why they did that particular deal was because they wanted to say, hey, to go back to KD and say, look, you know, you're still on contract for 3 years. We can put pieces around you. We're already putting quality pieces that are rotational guys in the playoff on a playoff team and maybe even contending. What do you think? And I think KD's answer was kind of like, nah, bro, get me up out of here. And so they took that time, like, okay, we knew they had some interest from the Suns earlier. They went back to that particular well. They were able to get a nice piece for them. They got 4 first-round picks, some swaps, and they get Cam Johnson and Bridges, 2 3-and-D guys that fit in anywhere, right? So, like, right now, the Nets is one big 3-and-D lineup. Like I kind of want them to just line up. I'm sure some other guys are going to go before this deadline thing is done, or they'll figure some stuff out. But I just kind of want to see them all play together because I think it'd be funny.
Wouldn't you, if you were the Nets, and I'm looking at this group, I'd try to trade them all and see how many more draft picks I could get.
Yeah, I mean, I would trade them all, but it's interesting because we're dealing with the Nets here. We saw what happened when I think I underestimated the new owner bravado, right?
Right.
Phoenix Suns got a new owner and immediately makes this deal, right? Like the paint in his office isn't even dry yet. And he's willing to mortgage so much of the future to get a player to win right this very second. You saw something similar happen with the Nets when they went out and got Paul, and this was years ago with Prokhorov, where they got Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, a lot of these aging superstars in order to be relevant right at that very second. I think that I think the Nets did a pretty good job of making that deal and setting themselves up so that they're not in the same position that they were right after they make that trade when those Garnett and Pierce and them get older. And so now they're just trying to figure stuff out for years and years. They're not in that situation anymore. So, yes, it didn't work out like they wanted to with Kyrie, KD, Harden, but they're not going to be in the same sort of destitute sort of situation that they were when last time they went all in. And for that, I think that front office deserves some kudos.
Can we go back like 4 years when the year before they brought in Kyrie and KD? They were like a surprise team in the East, and it was all like, how did they put this together? If I'm not mistaken, Spencer Dinwiddie was part of that group, right?
He was on that squad. I think Jacques Vaughn was on that coaching staff as well. Yeah.
So go back to that. That was what this group was good at, and then maybe an influx of cash. smelling your own whatever, and you go, you know what, we could do this, we could get, and they completely went away from what they're good at to what they clearly were not good at. And look, I'm going to risk spraining my shoulder here, patting me on the back, but the Ben Simmons thing, like the James Harden part of the equation, they shouldn't have done that, but Harden would have worked had one of the other two guys been more available. You can't do anything about Durant's injuries, but I think Harden just was tired of dealing with everything that surrounds Kyrie, and he wanted out. He's in a better situation. I don't know if Philly's great, but I think he's much more at peace because he knows that, essentially what they are, and he's not the same player. But I just think Brooklyn blew it by trying to be somebody they weren't.
They took a shot. They took a swing. If you tell me tomorrow that I can get players the caliber of Kyrie, Harden, and KD on my team at one time, I'm gonna do it. And if I'm wrong,
okay.
I'm wrong. But you're not going to win a title without having great talent.
But then
that
you
doesn't happen in this league.
But you don't put those two guys on the court and get Steve Nash to be your coach.
Oh yeah, now there's plenty of blame to go around for why this didn't work. There's a good amount that's on Kyrie. There's a good amount that's on the organization.
And Durant, they basically both chose Nash, didn't they?
Yeah, I didn't understand. That was the thing. The Nash thing, I think, is kind of the precursor to a lot of this other stuff. I think if they have a better leader that's more capable, Nash is pretty much Jeff Saturday 1.0, right? A guy who hadn't shown any real desire to be a head coach, and that they were just so pressed to get. They went back to him multiple times. I don't know if you remember their courtship of Nash. Nash originally refused to do this, and then eventually they kind of talked him into it. He was by no means in a position to be the head coach of a championship caliber roster. That was just a bad decision overall, and they wasted a lot of time trying to make that work. And I think when it didn't work, and they saw some of the blowback from KD or Kyrie or both, they then were wanted to be steadfast. We're going to stick to Steve Nash because we're in charge. And by that time, it was far too late. And also, you were back in the wrong course. There's really plenty of blame to go around for why this didn't work.
All right, let's get to the Los Angeles Lakers, who did what? The Lakers, D'Angelo Russell, all right. Malik Beasley, okay. Did the Lakers really get... Is there any impact at all other than getting rid of Russell Westbrook, who I didn't think was terrible for them this year?
I think he's a Sixth Man of the Year candidate, to be completely honest with you. I thought he played really well for them once he found his role. They are better, though. They are. They improved in the ways that they need to. They're more athletic. They have much better shooting with Beasley and D'Lo surrounding LeBron James, and they're deeper, right? They just have more playable guys. So, yes, but every conversation, as long as this guy's on the roster, is going to have to come with the asterisk of if Anthony Davis is healthy. Every single conversation that you can have about their prospects, because if he's healthy, they could come out of the West. They legitimately could. The West is a really weird place to
come out of the West.
They could come out of if both of those guys are healthy and playing at what we've seen even this year, and then you add to that the shooting, you add to that the deep. Vanderbilt's a really good defender, and he can take some of those minutes away from LeBron in terms of having to play the better perimeter players and stuff like that. They could, and it says something about the Lakers, but it says a lot about the West. The West is a really wonky place right now. The Grizzlies, who everybody loved, have been on a pretty terrible skid. The Pelicans, who I was huge on, and I thought could represent the Western Conference. They've had their troubles with illness and injury. Even the Nuggets, you're trying to figure out what's going on with Bones Highland and what their defense is going to be, and some of their plus-minus numbers without Jokic aren't great. Every Western Conference team has legitimate questions about them, which makes the KD trade all the more interesting with the Suns, because now you've added Book and KD, and they've been beset with injuries. They've really had a rough go of it with injuries. But if they get a healthy run, maybe, right? I'm still not sure.
I think you're nuts.
What he has left.
I think this is crazier than back in Brooklyn. Even when they
yes. I'll stand on this by myself.
So
cool.
Right now, I just dialed it up. According to FanDuel, Phoenix is the odds-on favorite to win the West at essentially 2-1. Denver is next at just over 3-1. It's plus 33, plus 300, plus 330. Clippers, who are operating more under the radar than any team in the NBA. I don't love them, but nobody is talking about the Clippers, and that's just, I guess, history. Plus 550. Then the Warriors at plus 700. The Mavericks at plus 750. That's it. Then Memphis at 8-1. And then you've got real long shots. The Pelicans at 27-1. The Lakers are 46-1.
Hey, it sounds like a good time to buy in. But all right, but tell me, okay. All right,
I'd take Sacramento 1,000 times in a row over the Lakers.
No, you would.
I would.
In a series, you would take Sacramento.
I'll take Sacramento.
With the Lakers at their healthiest, you're going to take Sacramento.
But I don't know who's going to be at their healthiest.
No, you
I don't.
Look,
I don't.
At the top of that Western Conference, though, you mentioned the odds of the more favored teams. Who of those teams are you just absolutely in love with for the West?
None of them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It says when I say something,
but I'm definitely not in love with the Lakers.
Of course not. Nobody. But I'm saying if you're not in love with anybody, it's The Bachelor, right? Like let's date around. Let's figure some stuff out. Like you know what I mean? Like
I can't. I almost said something terrible. I can't. I can't play the field. I can't. I'm not going to date Phoenix and then Denver. By the way, I have a man crush on Nikola Jokic anyway.
Oh, I mean, look, he's playing phenomenally. I mean, there's absolutely no question about it. If he gets his third straight MVP, I will be at least interested to see.
He's going to average a triple-double.
Hey, whoa. I was told by AppleCare when Russell Westbrook did that it wasn't a big deal, that those were inflated numbers. Now, I'm just saying, I remember when Russ did it for like 3 straight years, and people were like, he's stat hunting. I'm just
well, I thought there was an element to that for Russell. They also weren't really winning. But a lot of it is also like tripled up. It's an incredible thing. Doesn't make you the MVP. But when a center is averaging the assists that he is averaging, I mean, it is sort of goofy.
Oh, no, it's super goofy. Like he's oftentimes the one bringing the ball up the court. Their offensive sets in the half court run through him. He's the hub for that. Like, there's no question. You can make the argument that he's the best passer in the league, and there's not going to be too much protesting about that. He's phenomenal for that team, and really stirs the drink for them on offensively.
All right, I'm just hoping the Lakers can get into the play-in tournament. I don't think that's a guarantee at this point. I know the Knicks swung a minor deal. I don't even know if it's final yet. Josh Hart, it's a good deal. Josh Hart's a good player. It reunites him with a former Villanova. I think they were teammates. Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson in the Knicks. I don't think it really moves the needle for them. To me, they're the same team. Are any of the other Eastern teams going to make a deal, or no? Are they just sitting this one out?
I don't know, man. Like I've kept waiting. Honestly, I've been looking at Miami. I thought that they would maybe try to get into this somewhere. I know they've been a bit disappointing. They've had a lot of injuries. Lowry hasn't played well, but I don't know what on that team, the guys that you wouldn't move in terms of Butler and Bam. Outside of that, how valuable are any of the other pieces? Tyler Hero, I guess, will be the only other one. But, like even their three-pointer has gone down. Like Miami has fallen into this weird thing where they find diamonds in the rough, but then overpay them later. And it feels like they fell back into that with Duncan Robinson a little bit. Because he's just not contributing like that for them, despite the big money that they gave him. So I thought that they were going to try to make some move, and I guess we still got a handful of minutes here left. But I was surprised they didn't do anything. Milwaukee. I mean, look, Milwaukee is really, really good. I think them getting Middleton back was, kind of the biggest thing. I think they just traded George Hill. I think he's going to the Pacers.
George Hill got traded again.
Yeah, George Hill. I mean, look, man.
I'm just assuming he lives at the airport.
I'm just assuming he just has timeshares everywhere. Like at this point, it's probably cheaper than putting down roots. But I think the top of the East feels very comfortable with where they are, particularly with the Nets kind of Xing themselves out of it. You know what I mean? Like I I'm a little maybe surprised to see that the Celtics haven't decided to do anything with Grant Williams. I know he's been wanting a bigger deal, and I doubt that he's going to get that money. But they might just be willing to watch him leave after he contributes to this season.
The Nets X'd themselves out of it when they thought that Ben Simmons was going to be something. All right, final thing. I'm just sorry. I'm never going to let that go.
You are never going to let, man. I'm rooting for him so hard. I'm not even going to lie.
He's terrible.
I'm all in on Ben Simmons, partly because I like him, but partly just to spite.
Like
I
Ben Simmons might be the most wonderful human being on planet Earth. I hope he is. And I hope. I mean, he's getting paid a ton of money. Yeah, he just can't help a good team because he refuses to shoot. I mean, you can't refuse to shoot in the NBA. I mean, it's otherwise you become useless. The Hornets moved Jalen McDaniels. Is there to me this was nothing, but they did get 2 second-round picks for whatever that's worth, and they brought in a 60% 3-point shooter from the Knicks. He's 6 for 10. I don't believe they really brought in anybody who's just whatever. He's a body. Where are they?
Okay, so one, I'll say that I'll be running the Twitter Spaces from Swarm and Sting. I'm the site editor over there right now.
Okay,
so that's a recent position. So I'll be running all the stuff over there, writing and editing and stuff like that. And
Swarm and Sting, all right.
Swarm and Sting under the fan-sided umbrella. Come check us out. But I think it's less about Jalen McDaniels. Like, yes, he was going to be an unrestricted free agent after this year. He's making $2 million this year. Is a fantastic value, and they weren't going to pay. Like it was pretty. The writing had been on the wall that they just weren't going to.
So they had a good player.
They had a good player that they got in the second round. Like he was the 52nd overall pick in that draft.
All right, I'm trying to unpack the fact that they had a good player that they weren't going to pay. Because they have so many other good young players?
And that's the thing. I think if you're a Hornets fan, I think the thing is that it's frustrating because it feels like you're a G League team where, hey, we found this player, we cultivate him, we refuse to pay him, he's going to go contribute somewhere else. He's a 3-and-D guy, athletic, can play multiple positions on defense. He had a little bit of a shooting slump this year, but overall he's a plus 3-point shooter.
6'9".
Yeah, like he's just something. He's a rare find for a team, and he's a beautiful complementary piece. Even if he isn't a starter for any contributing team, he's somebody that you would want. And the fact that the Hornets not only can't hold on to that person, but can't get anything of real value back. You mentioned they're going to get 2 draft picks off of this. They're choosing between the best of like 1 or 2 different teams. Here are the second round picks since Mitch Kupchak was selected as the GM. Here are the second round picks that weren't immediately traded on draft night: Scotty Lewis, Vernon Carey, Grant Riller, Cody Martin, Jalen McDaniels, and Arnoldus Kulbalka. And with McDaniels gone, Cody Martin is the only one that's even still on the roster, and he's hurt right now, but was a contributor. So when you look at that, you're like, hey, we had a good player, and we're going to get him back for what has most recently historically been nothing. And that, I think, is what bothers Hornets fans. Like, it's just very, very difficult to be excited about something when you're not making the move. The other part is, unless something has changed in the past 15 or 20 minutes, which it easily could have, Plumlee's still going to be on the roster, and he's going to be leaving because he's going to be a free agent. Terry Rozier still got 3 years on his contract, and that's not going anywhere. Gordon Hayward still is on there, and that's not going anywhere. Like, you're not moving in a way where, one, you can let some of these younger players play, and the wins will probably show and dwindle, and so you have a chance at Wemby or Scoot in the draft because it's all about the first 2 draft picks in this upcoming draft.
Yes.
So you're not moving in a way that you're going to be worse, and you're also not building capital. It just doesn't seem like there's a very obvious plan for how they're going to get better. You're not going to get free agents like that because you're just not a destination city. You have to make trades and you have to draft well. So far, it's been underwhelming in terms of what the Hornets organization seems to have committed to doing. It just seems like there's a lot of shrugging of shoulders and hoping things get better. And that's not really something that you can sell to a fan base that's been on the outside looking in for playoffs for the past handful of years.
I wish Michael Jordan was as into the competitiveness as an owner as he was as a player. I just wish some of that translated. It doesn't appear that it does.
Well, I think it hurts. I think it hurts him. Like, he famously came back from an injury when the Bulls wanted to sit him so that they could get a better draft pick, fought through it, and got them to the playoffs. He's essentially doing the same thing as an owner. Like, that's the funny part. Like, he's competitive, but it feels like it's a little bit more short-sighted than long-term, and that has to change as you transition from player to executive ownership.
Brenden Whitted,